So dear participants, welcome back after a short break. So we are resuming the next lecture to be given by Professor Tokonami sir.
Okay, wait a moment.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Okay, wait a moment. Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir. It's okay, sir.
Okay. Let's resume the next lecture on health effects due to radon isotopes. Here's the history of health effects of radon. 16th century, an unusually high mortality from lung disease occurring in younger workers was observed among the miners in Schneeberg region. 17th and 18th centuries, the frequency of this lung disease, which was later called Schneeberger Lungenkrankheit, Schneeberger lung disease, increased when the mining of silver, cobalt, and copper was intensified. 1879, the disease was identified as lung cancer by Harding and Hesse. 1900, radon gas discovered by Dawn. 1924, radon was recognized as a causative factor for the Schneeberger lung cancer. 1960, first epidemiologic study identified a relation between lung cancer and radon levels. 1988, radon is classified as a carcinogenic agent by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Radon and lung cancer carcinogenesis. It is estimated that radon causes between 3% to 14% of all lung cancers in a country, then depending on the national average radon level and the smoking prevalence. It is estimated that radon is responsible for more than 21,000 lung cancer deaths each year in the United States. See. Radon and its decay products are inhaled along with air. Radon gas itself is largely exhaled due to its inert nature. However, the radioactive decay products, polonium, bismuth, and lead, adhere to the sensitive lung tissue. Once deposited, these progeny continue to undergo radioactive decay, emitting alpha particles, namely polonium-218 and polonium-214. Alpha radiation has unique characteristics that make it biologically significant despite its limited penetration ability. the high energy transfer capacity of alpha particle enables them to efficiently interact with the oxyribonucleic acid DNA, causing direct strand breaks. Through radiolysis, they generate reactive oxygen species RAS and hydroxyl radicals, leading to oxidative stress. Radon epidemiological evidence in lung cancer. There are different types of study. Cohort studies of underground miners, ecological studies of exposure to residential radon, case control studies of lung cancer and residential radon. Individual studies are usually too small to provide statistically significant conclusions. Here is the limitation of the radon epidemiology. Bayer 6 by National Research Council on health risks of radon and other internally deposited alpha emitters. They gave the first comprehensive study on the relationship between radon exposure and lung cancer risk in underground miners, and 4 cohort studies from Colorado uranium miners, Ontario uranium miners, El Dorado uranium miners, and Mount Berget iron miners. The number of subjects are 20,000 miners, more than 20,000 miners. 459 lung cancer deaths. Here's a table on the epidemiological evidence. Here is cohort, number of workers followed, average duration of follow-up, average age at end of follow-up, average duration of exposure, average cumulative exposure in working level months, and number of lung cancer deaths. El Dorado, Beverage, Ontario, Colorado, all exposed, and Colorado less than 2,000 working level months. Based on this data analysis, the excess relative risk per 100 working level months was estimated to be 1.3. 95% confidence interval is 0.8 to 2.3. ICRP publication 65, Protection Against Radon-222 at Home and at Work. They incorporated new studies from regions like New Mexico, Bohemia, and France. There is a projection model, namely multiplicative model, modifying effect of age at exposure and time since exposure. The number of subjects was more than 30,000 miners and 1,047 lung cancer deaths. Exposure risk relationship, monotonic increase of the excess relative lung cancer risk with the cumulative exposure to radon progeny. This table summarizes the result of epidemiological data in different uranium underground mines. Colorado, USA, New Mexico, Ontario, Canada, Beaver Lodge, Saskatchewan, Canada, Bohemia, France. For iron miners, Sweden, the total number of miners, 31,486 miners were analyzed. Here is a mean cumulative exposure in working level mass, 120 millisievert. This is a number of lung cancer deaths, observed value and expected value. As a result, the excess relative risk per 100 working level months was estimated to be 1.34. 95% confidential interval, 0.8 to 2.1. This value is very similar to Bayer 6 report. In Bayer 6 report, there are 11 cohort studies. Cohort studies, Europe, North America, Asia, and Australia. 8 of these studies were of uranium miners, and the remainder were of miners of tin and phosphor or iron. The number of subjects was more than 60,000 miners, and 2,600 lung cancer deaths. The lung cancer rate increased approximately linear with increasing cumulating radon exposure in their conclusion. This table summarizes a different epidemiological study in Bayer 6 report. China, Czechoslovakia, Ontario, Colorado, Ontario, Newfoundland, Sweden, New Mexico, Beaver Lodge, Port Radium, Radium Hill, France. As a total, 60,000 as number of workers, and the number of cancers, 2,674. The mean working level months is 164.4 working level months. Mean duration, 5.7 years. The excess relative risk per 100 working level was estimated to be 0.55, 95% confidence interval, 0.27 to 1.13. The excess relative risk over exposure decline with attained age, showing higher risk increases at younger ages. No clear pattern is observed between excess relative risk per exposure and the age at first exposure. Excess relative risk per exposure was found to decrease with either decreasing time since last exposure or decreasing time since exposure. This is a project, relatively new project after 2000. Alpha risk, that is quantification of cancer and non-cancer risks associated with multiple chronic radiation exposures. The 4 countries are involved in this study: France, Czech Republic, Germany. 3 countries are involved. The population size 50,149. Follow-up period 1946 to 1999. Duration of follow-up 26.4 years. The number of deaths as a total 9,933. Cumulative exposure 58 working level months. Duration of exposure 8.8 years. Here's a result on excess relative risk. Czech, French, German, whole cohorts here, EER per 100 working level months, 1.13, 95% confidence interval, 0.974, and 1.53, 0.60 in France, 0.41 in Germany, and low exposure period was selected, and the results are like this: 2.14, 2.11, 3.76. The joint, the 2.60. Therefore, higher risk coefficients are observed at lower exposure levels, and there is strong consistency in the estimates across the 3 cohorts. In Bayer 6 report, Residential Risk Exploration, the conditions of exposure in mines and outdoors differ appreciably. Other determinants of lung cancer risk differ between exposure in mines and indoors. Many of the miners were exposed to other lung cancer carcinogens such as arsenic in addition to radon. A more appropriate way to examine the association between lung cancer and residential radon exposure is a case control study. In the European pooling study, it involved 13 studies from 9 European countries, 7,148 cases of lung cancer, and 14,208 controls. Collaborative analysis of individual data were made from 13 case control studies of residential radon and lung cancer. Measurements were made from residences occupied during the 5 to 34 years prior to diagnosis or acceptance as a control. Here is the title of the paper: Radon in Homes at Risk of Lung Cancer, Collaborative Analysis of Individual Data from 13 European Case Control Studies. According to European pooling study, we can say the mean radon concentration measures in the homes of individuals in the control groups was 97 becquerel per cubic meter, with 11% of homes exceeding 200 becquerel per cubic meter and 4% exceeding 400 becquerel per cubic meter. Among lung cancer cases, the mean radon concentration was 104 becquerel per cubic meter. The dose-response relation seemed to be linear with no threshold and remained significant in analysis limited to individuals from homes with measured radon less than 200 becquerel per cubic meter. It is estimated that radon contributes to approximately 2% of all cancer deaths in Europe. The risk of lung cancer increased by 8.4%, 95 confidence interval, 3% to 15.8% per 100 becquerel per cubic meter increase in measured radon. After correction for random uncertainties in measurement of radon concentrations, the dose-response relation remained linear, but nearly doubled in strength to 16%. 95 confidence interval is 5% to 31% per 100 becquerel per cubic meter of estimated mean usual radon concentration. The proportionate excess risk did not vary significantly by study, age, sex, or smoking status. In the absence of other causes of death, the estimated absolute risks of developing lung cancer by age 75 at typical radon concentrations of 0, 100, and 400 becquerel per cubic meter would be approximately 0.4%, 0.5%, and 0.7% respectively for lifelong non-smokers. For cigarette smokers, the risks are about 25 times higher at 10%, 12%, and 60% respectively. There is another study, radon epidemiological study from North America. North American pooling study involved 7 studies from New Jersey, Winnipeg, Missouri 1, Missouri 2, Iowa, Connecticut, and Utah, South Idaho. 3,662 cases of lung cancer and 4,966 controls. In this study, long-term alpha track detectors were used to assess residential radon concentrations. These data are summarized in this paper. Residential radon and risk of lung cancer, a combined analysis of 7 North American case control studies. According to the North American polling study, we can say average radon concentration ranged from 26 becquerel per cubic meter in the New Jersey study to 127 becquerel per cubic meter in the Iowa study. We found a linear dose-response relationship with no threshold. There was some evidence of decreasing radon-associated lung cancer risk with age. No substantial differences in the access odds ratio by categories of cigarette smoking, number smoked per day, duration of smoking, or time since quitting. For all 7 studies, the risk of lung cancer increased by 11% per 100 becquerel per cubic meter. Cubic meter increased in measured radon concentration, 95% confidence interval, 0 to 28%. When the analyses were restricted to the subset of data with greater exposure accuracy, the lung cancer risk estimates increased. In the Chinese polling study, 2 studies in 2 areas were given in Gansu and Shenyang province. 1,050 cases of lung cancer and 1996 controls. 1-year radon detectors and personal interviews to obtain data on smoking and other risk factors. Actually, they measured radon concentration over over 1 year. For the pooled data, the risk per 100 becquerel per cubic meter measured radon concentration increased by 13%, 95% confidence interval 1 to 36%. There is a linear dose-response relationship with no threshold. These findings were given in this paper. Risk of lung cancer and residential radon in China pooled result of 2 studies. Radon and tobacco gives the synergistic effects. Smokers are estimated to be 25 times more at risk from radon than non-smokers. But when I talk in dosimetry of radon isotopes, dose conversion factor in smoker's house is smaller than that in non-smoker's house. The EPA estimates, Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, estimates according to the data obtained by Layer 6 that the risk of radon-induced lung cancer deaths for a lifetime for never smokers is 7 per 1,000, increasing up to 62 per 1,000 for those ever smokers when they are exposed a radon exposure of 37 becquerel per cubic meter. 7 non-smokers, 62 smokers. There is an addictive interaction between radon exposure and tobacco consumption. An increment in lung cancer risk when residential radon exposure increase is comparable to tobacco comparison. Among heavy smokers, the risk was 28.36, 95% confidence interval, 10.91 to 73.73 when exposed to radon levels below 50 becquerel per cubic meter, rising significantly to 73.0, 95%, 19.88, 268.14 at exposure exceeding 147 becquerel per cubic meter. Lung cancer risk increases significantly as radon concentration increases, reaching an odds ratio of 29.3, 95% confidence interval, 15.4 to 55.7 for heavy smokers exposed to more than 200 becquerel per cubic meter. Here. The tobacco consumption. Liver smokers 1 to 33 pack use, more than 66 pack use. Tobacco and radon and tobacco increased chromosome aberrations in the exposed smokers group are attributed to the synergistic effect of smoking and radon exposure. Chromosome aberrations are reliable biomarkers for DNA damage caused by radon and smoking. Dicentrics in smokers were observed to be 3.8 times higher than in non-smokers. Radon and tobacco, this interaction may be explained by alteration in airway geometry caused by increased mucus production from smoking, along with psychological changes such as silica loss, reduced radon progeny redistribution, and elevated breathing frequency lead to the accumulation of radon progeny in lung. Wait a moment. sorry. Led to the accumulation of radon progeny in lung tissue and result in the several-fold increase in absorbed dose compared to healthy lungs. Radon progeny can attach to tobacco smoke aerosols, increasing potential doses to target organs. Radon and lung cancer risk in never smokers. Lung cancer in never smokers represents around 15 to 25% of all lung cancer cases worldwide. Several epidemiological studies have observed an increased risk of developing lung cancer in never smokers exposed to high radon levels at their dwellings. Here's the category of radon concentration: less than 50 becquerel per cubic meter, 50 and 80, more than 140. Non-smokers in the cohort exhibited an excess risk of lung cancer attributable to radon exposure, with an estimated excess relative risk of 10% per 100 becquerel per cubic meter of average radon concentration. Residential radon is a clear risk factor for lung cancer in never smokers, with a significant risk observed in those individuals exposed to radon levels above 200 becquerel per cubic meter. Yeah. This is more than radon concentration to above 200 becquerel per cubic meter, compared to less than 100, almost 1.91 or 1.7. Only causal relationship with radon has been established for lung cancer. The lungs and respiratory tract receive the highest doses of ionizing radiation from inhaled radon and its decay products. Stomach and skin are also exposed, although to a lesser degree. The stomach through ingestion, skin via external radiation. Many studies have analyzed the relationship between radon exposure and cancers other than lung cancer. However, the findings regarding radon and other cancer types remain contradictory. Regarding skin cancer, the association between radon and skin cancers is biologically plausible, as radon decay products can settle on the skin, emitting alpha particles that irradiate the outer layers. Some data are obtained here: Switzerland, Denmark, Spain, United States, and United Kingdom. The results are contradictory and inconclusive, actually. But we could say ultraviolet UV exposure is a significant confounding factor. Regarding stomach cancer, ingestion of groundwater with a high level of radon is a main route for delivering an alpha radiation dose directly to the stomach. After ingestion, water is absorbed in the gastrointestinal tract comprising the mouth, esophagus, stomach, and intestines. Radon in ingested water remains in the stomach for several tens of minutes. Here is one of the data between radon and stomach cancer. Radon or radium and uranium. As I can say, as you see, no major effect of ingested natural radon, radium, uranium on risk of stomach cancer. Regarding leukemia, when radon and its decay products are transported to the bone marrow via the bloodstream, they can deliver high doses of alpha particles directly to the bone marrow tissues. Notably, radon itself provides a higher dose to the bone marrow compared to its decay products. Prolonged exposure to these alpha radiation doses can damage the bone marrow, leading to the development of immature or abnormal blood cells. White blood cells are particularly susceptible to exposure. These affected blood cells may undergo malignant changes, potentially leading to cancers such as leukemia, a cancer of the blood. There are several studies on leukemia between radon and this disease. Sweden, US, United States, Germany, UK, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. See, there are several literatures on this study. Some studies have suggested that radon may cause leukemia. Many other studies did not show statistical significance. It is, at this moment, it is not clear on this relationship. Here's a summary on this lecture. Those comes from the radon progeny. Epidemiological studies confirm that radon in homes increases the risk of lung cancer in the general population. The proportion of all lung cancers linked to radon is estimated to lie between 3% and 14%, depending on the average radon concentrations in the country and on the method of calculation. Smokers are at much higher risk when exposed to radon. Other health effects of radon have not consistently been demonstrated. This is all of this lecture.
Thank you very much, sir. So dear participants, if you have any question, you may ask. Dear participants, if you have any question, please unmute yourself and you may ask the question. So Tokonami sir, I think there are no questions from the participants. So thank you very much for your such a detailed lecture on dosimetry of radon. So now we are having a break of around 1.5 hours, and we will be joining again at 1:30 India Standard Time, and I think 5 p.m. of Japan Standard Time might be.
Yep.
So thank you very much, participants, for your active listening. So we will be back at the same Zoom, same Google Meet link at 1:30 p.m. of India Standard Time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Is Dr. Tokonami is there? Professor Tokonami?
Oh, yes.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Dr. Kumar.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Sir, I was listening to your talk on National Survey of the Radon Isotope Progeny regarding lung cancer. There was a slide in which it represents, in the summary slide, it says that smokers are at more risks for lung cancer.
Yeah.
In the slide number 214, there is a
214.
non-smokers in the cohort exhibit excess risk of lung cancer attributed to the radon exposure. Can you please clarify this bit? Slide number 214 and the last slide, that summary slide, in which conclusion is that smokers are more prone to the lung cancer. Whereas in 2114, there are non-smokers are also more prone to this disease, that is lung cancer.
Wait a moment. Okay. 50. Wait a moment. I'll show you. In my slide 214,
Yes, sir.
lung cancer in never smokers represent around 15 to 25% of all lung cancer cases worldwide.
Yes, at the bottom there is non-smokers in the cohort exhibit an excess risk of lung.
And
in our summary, that is, there is smokers are more prone to risk.
Smokers are more prone risk.
Yeah.
So with the estimated excess relative risk of 10%, 100 becquerel per cubic meter of average radon concentration. Right? So, but let me see.
During the talk, there was one also that those who are smoking, that the person who are smokers, that may also get more exposure to this radon, resulting in some kind of cancers also.
Sorry, I don't understand your question clearly. Wait a moment.
So might be ma'am is asking that there is conflict between two of your statements in your presentation. So in one of your slide it says that smokers are having a significant risk of cancer risk development, and in your summary slide it says that they are not having any kind of risk due to radon. Am I right, ma'am?
No, that is not the case. That is, those are one case is smokers and one is the non-smokers.
Yeah.
And summary says that smokers are more prone to this. And to slide number 214 and slide number last slide, that is a summary, that is slide number 221. At slide 221, it says smokers are at much higher risk when exposed to the radon. And slide number 214 says that non-smokers are also at excess risk. So which we in case we have to compare that, which one category is more prone to cancers or any kind of other risk associated with the radon, then which one is to put first, either smokers or non-smokers? Is there any correlation, or Tokonami sir, you can also explain me that is there any correlation that if one person is smoking and that is more or less, you can say less or more prone to the radon exposure and further developing any that sort of diseases associated with radon?
Let me see. Smokers. ERR 10%.